What is going on, everybody? So we're getting towards the end of the spooky season, unfortunately. And I've been spending almost the entire month doing nothing but watching horror movies. I haven't done A24 archive videos or Criterion Corner videos. I've really just been watching all horror movies, and it's been a lot of fun. There have been some horror movies that have been released this month, including Halloween Ends, and there's been a lot of buzz around the horror movie I'm going to be talking about today. And to be honest, with my previous experience with the first film in this franchise, I was not very excited to see this film, and my expectations were very far exceeded. This movie was wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it today. Terrifier 2 is directed by Damien Leone. After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County, where he must hunt down and destroy a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. As the body count rises, the siblings fight to stay alive while uncovering the true nature of Art's evil intent. So when I first discovered the original Terrifier, it was because I was on some forum on the internet where someone was talking about Art the Clown and the awesome character design. And so I was really excited to jump into that film and watch it. I was really disappointed when I saw that film. I felt like the characters weren't well fleshed out. It felt just like an hour and a half runtime meant to kind of showcase like visual effects, but there wasn't enough for me to grasp onto to really care all that much. And unfortunately, when I finished the runtime of the first film, I just forgot it almost immediately. There really wasn't much to it other than the really cool character design of Art. And so when this second film was announced, I really had no intention originally on seeing it, and I saw a lot of buzz about it. And I'm always really respectful of independent filmmakers, especially in the horror community, because it's a very niche genre, and I feel like when it comes to horror, there's a really tight-knit community of people who love horror films. And this movie was getting a lot of praise, and I know it made like over triple its budget in the box office, which is incredible. I think that's an amazing success. And so I decided to jump on and watch this one when it became available this week for streaming. And this movie was probably my biggest surprise of the year. I had so much fun with this film, and it feels like everything that Damien Leone was wanting to do with the first film, but may have not have been able to be executed due to like budgetary restrictions or that kind of thing, that he really just kind of grabbed a hold of this film full force and did everything that he wanted to. This is a 2 hour and 18-minute runtime, which I know may seem daunting to people, and I know there's been some complaints that it's a little over bloated, but I had an absolute blast throughout the entire runtime of this film. I feel like there's so many different ideas that were explored in this movie, and just like ridiculous practical effects that they wanted to show, that they really kind of dove into full force, and it just is really executed well. I said it in my Letterboxd review, but this really felt like a slasher film from an era of slashers that I felt like was dead. I felt like you could have pulled this out of somewhere in the 1980s and it would just fit perfectly in there. This film follows Sienna, played by Lauren LaVera, who is this girl living at home with her brother and her mom. Her father had passed away, and she's constantly working on this costume that she's doing for Halloween, and you can tell that she's really interested in costume design and creating things on her own. Simultaneously, we see Art the Clown from the last film, where he was murdered but got up, and we're shown at the end of the first movie that he's essentially this like supernatural being that is virtually unkillable. And so he ends up escaping the morgue and coming back into this small town where he is seemingly going to wreak havoc. Well, at the same time, when we're following Sienna, her brother is super fascinated with like serial killers and really like macabre things. She's getting kind of worried that he might have something wrong with him. He's got this sketchbook that his dad had that has sketches of all different kinds of things in there that might be hinting towards what is going on. And what I really love about this movie is there's this really interesting lore that is created that might seem silly on the surface, but it all kind of works in this like impractical film as a whole, where you have this like supernatural clown killer who's going on a murdering rampage. And I just found this movie to be so much fun. The practical effects are probably some of my favorite I've ever seen. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, this movie was so gross it made me vomit. But this reminded me of a lot of the Tom Savini effects from the 70s and 80s. I think of like films like The Prowler or even Maniac, where the visual effects look so incredible. In this movie, the practicality of it, there's a scene where a guy's getting his head essentially like smashed, but his eyeball and mouth is still moving. And it's just so impressive that that's all done practically, where I feel like we live in a world that doesn't really exist anymore. The thing I love about Art the Clown is that he doesn't speak, but he has this like maniacal nature to himself. I love the kind of like humorous aspect that's added into all this darkly macabre things that are shown to you, where he's like, there's a really goofy scene where he's reading a paper at the beginning of the film that's like a 4-car pileup, family dead, and he's like laughing at it, and like all the ridiculous things that are applied to his character that make him really interesting to watch comparatively to the first film, where I felt like he was just a vehicle for the movie to take place. This one feels like it kind of fleshes out his character a little bit more, and that we kind of can see into his deranged psyche, which made it more interesting to watch. I also love the inclusion of this new little girl that like looks like Art, that has the same like face paint, where it wasn't really sure at the beginning of the film whether or not she's real or just a manifestation of Art's imagination, and it was a super interesting inclusion into the movie that I really appreciated. And what I liked about this film so much is, rather than just it being a generic slasher, there is that family dynamic. Sienna has a broken relationship with her mom. It seems like the two of them are kind of back and forth. Sienna and her brother are always kind of back and forth as well, but she does care about her brother. And I think adding that layered family dynamic in, including like the mystery of why her father died and the father's inclusion into what is happening into this film, were all really interesting elements that made this movie so engaging. I also really love all of the set pieces, especially in the third act, where they go to that like carnival haunted house area. It was super cool. All of like the production design and the set design was absolutely amazing. The score to this film was phenomenal. It really just kind of carried the movie and kind of kept that tone and that mood throughout the entire film that just made me engaged throughout the entire 2-hour and 18-minute runtime. I also want to talk about David Howard Thornton's performance as Art the Clown. He was absolutely insane. I love that he doesn't speak. All of his performances through facial expressions, bodily movements, and just the way that he comes across is so comical and demented at the same time. And I love films that can kind of take you as an audience member and put you into a situation where you're watching something so horrific, but at the same time you're laughing at something. And I feel like creating that sort of like sense of discomfort inside of you is really impressive. And this movie is just a lot of fun. I think you should just go in and watch it, especially if you're a fan of like late 70s to 80s slasher films. You like practical effects. This is going to be a movie that you absolutely love. And despite the runtime feeling daunting to some people, I think it's totally valid. I think that every moment in this film is really enjoyable. I think that Sienna is one of my favorite final girls in a film in a very long time. Lauren LaVera's performance is absolutely incredible. I feel like she did such an amazing job, and I'm really looking forward to watching this movie again. So have you seen Terrifier 2? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was fantastic. I really had low expectations for it, and it exceeded every single one that I had. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot. Lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.